Hi, in today's video I'm going to be covering setting up VI mode on the zsh shell. VI mode is basically Vim mode, where you can insert text as you normally would and type, and then enter normal mode where you can move the cursor and execute Vim commands to delete and manipulate the text. So normally if I'm in insert mode here in the shell, I'll just type command and it's going to list stuff out. If I switch to normal mode, I can move the cursor around and execute Vim commands to manipulate the text and delete it. And what I've also done is added a few fixes that crop up using VI mode, because sometimes when you're switching between the modes, things like backspace won't work, clearing, deleting a line won't work. So I've added some fixes in for that. And also, if you notice to the left of my prompt here, you'll see I have this +i and -n. So the +i is for when I'm in insert mode, so that I can type normally. And to switch to normal mode, you can press escape, but I recommend using control and the left bracket, that symbol. So control and left bracket will switch me into normal mode, and pressing I or any of the Vim commands like A will switch me into insert mode. So I can run a command like this and switch to normal mode, press DD, clear the line, and you can see here we are still in normal mode. If I press I, I'll switch to insert mode so that I can actually type stuff. So what I'm going to do is come through the zsh configuration file for the shell and show you what I've done. So come across to Emacs, and what I'll do is I'll just come down to where I've set my prompt. So this is my normal PS1 prompt here, showing let me switch back to this prompt. So this is showing my username, the host, and the current working directory. So I also have a right-handed prompt set in the zsh shell, which basically shows me the git status of a git repository. So if I change into a git repository, you'll see here on the right-hand side that I've got an indication of the git repository's status. So what I'm going to do is come down to the bottom where I've got the VI mode set up, and first of all what you're going to do is add bind key -v and export timeout equals 1. And what this does is this enables VI mode and also reduces the timeout, the length of time it takes to switch between modes to the minimum, so it's really quick basically. So the next thing here is actually fixing bugs when switching modes, because what I found was when switching between insert and normal mode, some keyboard commands would stop working. So for instance, first of all, we have the delete key. What would happen is if I just come across here and I switch modes, what would happen is the delete key wouldn't work after switching between modes. So you can see here I'm in insert mode, I switch to normal mode, switch back to insert, and I can delete. And this command here, bind key !, back key delete character, that's for fixing that issue that comes up. And I'll show you where I got some of these tips from. The next thing I had an issue was killing the line. So normally you can use Control U to kill the line. So if I switch to normal mode and then back into insert and press Control U, you can see it's basically killing the line. And what I found was without adding this bit of code, that wouldn't work. When you'd switch between the modes, suddenly the Control U would stop working. Same thing for Control A and Control E, which move the cursor from, to the beginning of the line and to the end of the line. And also with Control K, which will kill the line. So if I move the cursor back here, you can see I press Control K and it kills the line forward. So those are some of the fixes that you're going to need to add if you're using VI mode to actually fix some bugs that occur when switching between the modes. Now the next section down here is these two pieces down here are actually for my prompt. So the new line is creating a variable which is going to be equal to a new line, and we're going to be using that in the prompt so that we can actually have a multi-line prompt here, so that we will have the username at the host and the working directory up here, so we can see who we're logged in and what machine and the current working directory. And on the second line we have an indicator showing whether we're in insert or normal mode, and then we have the classic yes master prompt. So I'll just come through and show you how we set that up and where I got some of this code from. This is a chunk of code that I found online that I've sort of modified to remove some unnecessary stuff like colors and various other things. And basically what it's finding is two prompts: the normal prompt, which is normal mode, and the insert prompt down here. And what we have is the PS1, which is our prompt, and you can see this chunk here. This corresponds to my regular prompt, which sets the user at host followed by the working directory. We then have this new line variable, which is equal to this chunk of code up here, which creates a new line. And the reason I'm doing that is because just trying to add the new line character into this PS1 chunk of code would actually just print out the new line character and it wouldn't work. So that's why we have this new line variable here to create a new line so we can have a multi-line prompt. And this next section along here, I can select it. This is the chunk of code that actually creates the normal prompt or the insert prompt. And you can see here it's vim command and vi insert. So that's basically corresponding to the normal prompt and the insert prompt, so that it will toggle between the two when we use the keystrokes. And at the end, what we do is we have the yes master, which is the variable up here, which will print the yes master prompt after the command that shows if we're in insert mode or in normal mode. And then after that we have SLE reset prompt. And then basically what you have down here is some stuff that actually runs the function above. So that's the chunk of code. Basically we have the bind key, we export the timeout, and then we've got the bug fixes down here for deleting characters and killing the line and moving to the beginning and end of the line. The variables for the prompt and the actual function that creates the prompt. And now once we've got that set up, it will look like this. And as I said, basically what I wanted was a way to see at a glance if I'm in insert or normal mode, and the various scripts knocking about. You can actually show this section here on the right hand side if you want, but that would interfere with my git prompt, and it's not, means you'd have to look to the right hand side of the screen, which is a bit distracting. Luke Smith and Brodie Robertson actually use a bit of code which will change the shape of the cursor depending whether you're on insert or normal mode. But I found that a bit, unless you can actually remember offhand, block or underscore or vertical bar, which one they correspond to, I thought that'd be a bit confusing. So what I wanted was a way to show the mode that I'm currently in the terminal on the left-hand side. And this is why I like using a multi-line prompt, as it enables me to have a short prompt here, as opposed to if I was in a deep directory, the prompt would, stretch halfway across the screen and you'd be entering stuff over here. So that's why I like having a multi-line prompt, so that I can see the user at the host, the working directory, and then basically what I'm doing is I'm adding the little indicator at the start of the line so that I can see whether I'm in insert or normal mode. And what I chose to do was have +i for insert mode and -n for normal mode. And the reason for that was I tried it with just the I and the N, but I found it was visually easier to identify, okay, there's a plus. +i is just, makes sense to me. I'm adding stuff, I'm in insert mode, whereas -n, I'm sort of kind of thinking, I'm going to be deleting stuff, going to be rearranging stuff. So that would make it easier to identify on the prompt at a glance which mode I'm in. So if I press I, that's insert mode, like so, and you can press escape. But as I said, I would recommend using Control left bracket because it's less stretching on the keyboard. And once I've done that, I can execute Vim commands like dd to remove the line, and I can still see I'm in normal mode here. So I can press I, I'm in insert mode. I can, see at a glance, what's happening. So I can see I'm in insert mode. Boom, I'm now in normal mode, and I can, move. I can do change 2 words, and I'm back in insert mode. So there are some Vim commands like the change word, which you run in normal mode, but then once they've finished executing, they will place you back into insert mode. So if I do CW, you can see that's changed the word and put me back into insert mode. Okay. So it's very easy to toggle across. And what I'll do is just come across to the browser here. And if you search on YouTube for like ZSH insert mode, the first 2 hits you're going to get are from Luke Smith and Brodie Robertson. And basically, I won't open the videos, but what they'll do is they'll show you a setup where the prompt cursor will change from will be set by default to a vertical bar for insert mode, but then when you switch to normal mode, it will switch to a block cursor. And I just found that's fine, that's a good way to do it, but I just preferred having a visual indicator so that I can see if I'm in an insert mode or in normal mode, like so. So if you come across to YouTube, it said there's a couple of videos here, and I'll just actually open this, and I won't play it. I'll just come across and come down to the, okay, I think he's got a link to his current ZSH file down here. And so you can see this is the PS1. I can enable that a bit. There's the PS1, and this is his VI section here, setting the bind key and the export timeout. And what he's doing here is, excuse me, is setting the Vim keys for the tab completion menu so that you can use HJKL in the tab completion menu. And he's also got the fix for the backward delete character. This section down here is his section for changing the prompt shape depending on whether you're in insert or normal mode. So this is basically saying, you know, if the Vim command mode, then it equals block. Otherwise, if you're in sort of the main mode, it's going to switch to the beam, the vertical bar. And there's a section down here basically setting the cursor to be a beam cursor on startup by running a pre-exec command to change the prompt. So that's Luke Smith's dot files with the cursor changing whether you're in insert mode. And there's also Brodie Robertson here who's doing exactly the same thing. I think I've got a link to, I think there's a link under here to his dot files as well. If you do show more, you've got to scroll down a bit, but it's down here somewhere. Brodie Robertson, got a lot of stuff, GitHub. Yeah, so come across to GitHub, dot files, and you'll see his zsh. And it's basically the same bit of code as in Luke Smith's. So this is the VI mode here, bind key, export, and he's using the HJKL keys to move up and down in the tab completion menu. And this is the exact same block of code that Luke Smith's using to change the cursor depending whether you're in insert or normal mode. So if that's the sort of thing you want to do, just come across to YouTube and search for zsh insert mode. Have a look at these two videos and they'll show you how to change the cursor depending on which mode you're in. But as I said, I just prefer to have something that I can easily see on the left of the left of the prompt to show me whether I'm in insert or normal mode. And again, you can switch mode by, you can switch to normal mode by pressing escape, and switching back to insert mode by pressing I. But I prefer control and the left bracket to switch because it's less stretching on the keyboard. So control left bracket will switch to normal mode. I will switch back into insert mode, and it just makes it really nice if you're sort of typing a sort of, you know, long command, and you suddenly realise you want to switch back to the beginning of the line and, you know, change something. You can actually you know, delete the text and use normal Vim command. So I could do dd and it's going to delete the whole line. Or, you know, I can switch back here and, you know, do that. And it just makes it nice and easy to manipulate text in the terminal. You know, being able to move around like this. I can do D2 words. So there are some commands that will place you back into insert mode after you've executed them. So for instance, if I do control, was it Shift C, that kills the end of the line and that will put me back into insert mode. So if I do delete word here, DW, you can see that I'm still in normal mode. If I switch back and do change word, that will remove the text and also place me back into insert mode. So as I say, there are certain commands that after you execute them will return you back into insert mode, and there are some that will actually leave you in normal mode. So you just need to play around a bit with that, but this is something I should have been using for years, and I don't know why I haven't. If you're someone who likes Vim or Evil Mode and Emacs, this is going to be for you, because it's just really nice to be able to switch between sort of modes. And, you know, I could just do that, run the command, and it just makes it a bit more productive. And it's nice if you're switching between Vim and the terminal, Emacs and the terminal, you're using the same muscle memory so that you can remember the commands. You know, the commands will be sort of shifted over from your editor to the terminal, which just makes it a bit more easy to, you know, maneuver around in the terminal. And again, there's not much to set up. It's just a few lines of code. Basically, as I said, it's the bind key V, the export timeout, and these are the bugs that I found I needed to kill, to squish using this when switching between modes. So I say, when you're switching between insert and normal mode, what will happen by default is, if you don't have these fixes here, there are certain key commands that will stop working, like, as I said, you know, being able to press the delete key to delete a character, to kill the line, to shift to the beginning or the end of the line, or kill the entire line. And these fixes will basically stop that from happening. That they will re-enable those keys that you're used to using, so that, you know, nothing more frustrating than, you know, using something new and then finding out something you've used for years suddenly doesn't work. So that's basically what these do. And again, this is just my setup for my prompt, is actually creating a new line and creating the yes master prompt I like. And this is the function with the normal and insert modes here. So you can see this chunk here corresponds to this section here, the -n for normal mode, and this section down here corresponds to insert mode. So if I press I, you can see that switches to brackets +I. So those are the actual prompts, and this is the PS1 down here, and this is again the regular section showing the, you know, user at host and the working directory, the new line, and the chunk of code that actually changes the prompt from normal to insert mode. And then at the end, I just have the yes master here. So that's how I create a multi-line prompt. And again, you have these two bits of code down here which actually call the function above. So that's basically how I set up a multi-line prompt with an indicator to show whether I'm in insert or normal mode. And I'll leave links to my zsh file, but, you know, if you want to have a different kind of prompt, you can have, you know, a colored prompt here. You can have it on the right hand side. So you can you can change the cursor's appearance depending on whether you're in insert or normal mode. And if that's your thing, as I said, just check out YouTube and Luke Smith and Brody Robertson for that chunk of code. So this has just been a quick video on why you might want to use VI mode in ZSH, and you can do the same thing in the bash shell, but I just prefer ZSH instead of bash, and this just makes things a bit nicer using the terminal, you know, switching from the text editor you're used to using, Vim or Emacs Evil Mode, so that you can use the same key bindings in the terminal and hopefully be a bit more productive.